Welcome to the September 8th, 2015 school committee meeting. We're happy to have you join us. This meeting is being recorded by East Hampton Media. The school committee would like to recognize and thank Tim of East Hampton Media for taping tonight's production. East Hampton Media, channels 191, 192, and 193 is looking for volunteers. If anyone is interested in helping to tape city government meetings, please contact Kathy at 413-203-1360. Superintendent Follinsby, do you have some announcements for us?
I do have a few announcements. The next school committee meetings are October 13th and 27th, November 10th, and December 8th, 2015. Meetings will begin at 6:30 p.m. Kindergarten students' first day is tomorrow. There is a half day of school on Thursday, October 1st, for teacher professional development. And there is no school on Monday, October 12th, due to Columbus Day. There's a half day of school on Thursday and Friday, October 22nd and 23rd, due to parent-teacher conferences. And I'd also like to take a few moments at this time to introduce one of our new administrators. Sarah Mochek has been appointed interim special ed director for this year. And Sarah, I'd like you to come to the podium and just say a few words and introduce yourself.
So I just want to thank Superintendent Follinsby and the school committee for appointing me to this position. This is my 19th year here in East Hampton. I have felt very lucky to work here with the great administration and teachers and families of East Hampton. So I'm excited about this new role that I'm undertaking and look forward to working with all of you. So thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. And we're delighted to have Sarah here. Sarah is an interim, so she has an opportunity to experience this position of Director of Special Education before she considers making a final decision about it. So thank you, Sarah, for all the work you've done. She's done an amazing job of getting us up and running and an amazing job of creating a really smooth transition for the entire district and our families of children with special needs. So we look forward to working this entire year with you.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
To piggyback to the announcements, the first PTO meeting is tomorrow evening at 6:30 at the high school Cafe Commons, and childcare is provided by the high school Tiny Tots program. So it's 6:30 to 7:30 tomorrow night at the high school for the first PTO. And it's a district-wide PTO, so parents of students throughout the grades and preschool age are welcome to attend.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do we have any correspondence this evening?
No correspondence.
Okay, then we'll move on to gifts.
We do have a gift. Motion to accept with gratitude and appreciation the following gift: an anonymous donation of $100 for professional development at East Hampton High School.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We're very grateful. Okay, this is now the public speak portion of our meeting. And at this time, we invite anyone who would like to come and speak to us to do so and come to the podium and state who they are and where they're from. And it doesn't look as though we have anyone here who's interested in doing that, unless, no, I guess not. So we will move on at this time to our Finance Subcommittee report.
Dan is our chairperson. He's not here. I don't believe that we have met since our last meeting, so there's nothing to report.
Okay, and our Policy Subcommittee. Do you happen to know?
It's the same.
We have not met. Okay, very good.
We acted on the most recent, at the previous meeting, the most recent policies
Right.
and updates.
And we will have some new ones shortly to look at.
Okay. And Wendy Blumenthal is our Collaborative for Educational Services representative, and we normally have an update at this time, but she's not with us due to a family crisis. So we will move on to our discussion about warrant and payroll signing. I asked for this to be on the agenda because Melissa Zwadowski, our Director of Finance, has provided us with this wonderful schedule that outlines when warrants and payroll documents need to be signed. And we all know it's kind of a crazy process to keep track of and manage, and it's kind of stressful for everybody involved to try to get the signatures in at the right time. So having this schedule, knowing when we need to come in advance, I think will be very helpful. And so I gave everybody a copy, and I was wondering if we might want to, we need to have 3 people sign at each time. So I was wondering if we might want to try to have 3 people commit to that and do that on an ongoing basis. And I'm not sure, I don't think all of us are able to take turns with this because some people work out of town and their schedules wouldn't allow them to be here.
One
but-
thing I can do, if I can get everybody's email that they check most regularly, perhaps it's not the school committee email, but you know, as secretary, I'm happy to send out the email on the Monday to everybody's most used email reminder saying this week warrant will be available Tuesday at noon till Wednesday 3:30. You know, reply all.
And we're also looking at, because I think there was a request to see if we could send you a group text on that Monday. So we are looking at using our school reach to do that as well, if that's what you would like.
And that works for me. I mean, I'm almost always able to get over, unless I'm literally out of town. I can get over and read through and ask questions and then sign. I think that's an important piece to add to this, is that the signing process is also an opportunity to ask any questions about any items that are subject to approval. This process, and I'm not on the finance subcommittee, so I'm trying to be sure that I'm right about this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but we also wanted to be sure that people actually preview what we're signing, because usually it happens pretty quickly here at the meetings, the final signatures. And so part of the responsibility of coming over and signing is also the responsibility to preview and to ask about anything. And you always get a clear explanation of exactly what a line item is for, and that way the voters know that the warrants that we're voting on have been examined by the school committee before we're signing them.
So we could certainly do that. We could certainly just have that kind of a communication process take place. Or I didn't know if we wanted to try to have 3 people commit to do this faithfully for each week that it's needed.
Yeah, unless, like I said, except for being out of town, I'm one who can do it.
I almost always can, unless I am out of town for work. So it's
Right. So do you think it would be best to just put it out there for everyone to respond to, or do you think we could have 3 people commit to this and then find a replacement if they can't do it? What do you think would be better? Which?
I think as a matter of sort of actual events, that's what's happened. I know that Laura often, when I look at the signatures, Laura is often one of the first to respond. Lori is one of the first to respond, and then I usually end up being the second or third person in.
Wendy and Dan have a hard time because they work during those business hours.
Right, and they're out of town during the business hours.
So it's really the 4 of us that
Right.
Yep.
that do it fairly often.
Right.
So,
And this is also just really carrying us through December.
right. So do you
So
want to have?
perhaps they could respond to you, Deb, and if there aren't 3 who can do it, then you would
Right.
know you would need to do it.
Okay. Do you want to do that?
Yeah, I think the idea and having this schedule will be great, because it can kind of be a mental
Right.
reminder that it's on the bulletin board. I think the communication's pretty good. I suspect, and I apologize, I struggle with her last name, but Maria sends me a note.
Yes.
And
when she doesn't have the
an
signatures
email,
or she doesn't
and she
know.
sends it at both addresses. I get it at both school addresses.
So
I
what we
agree.
were trying to do though is take that burden off of Maria to track us down.
Sure.
And just have us proactively know, okay, these are the dates. We'll
I'll write 'em
commit
in.
to
I mean,
going
it's
and
every
doing
other
it.
week, so it's good to know this is now we have
Yeah.
which week is it?
Just so Maria doesn't have to.
And
track
just
us
as I'm
down.
reading this to be sure that I understand, so for example, the first one, it's Tuesday is the 9/1, correct?
Right.
Right? And so it's available Tuesday, Wednesday's 9/2, and
So like from
we want it
noon
signed
to
by
3:30.
Thursday.
Right, by
Right.
the end of it. So they want
Yeah.
you here by 3:30 in case you have questions, because they're gonna leave at
Right.
4.
Right,
Before 3:30 on Wednesday of all these dates.
right. And this
And
is the Tuesday.
afternoon on all the left column dates.
Yep.
Although it's often. maybe
So-
December, but yeah.
Next week, right, a week from today, there will,
15th.
the 15th, there'll be a warrant ready
At noon.
at noon that needs to be signed by the 16th at 3:30.
Right.
Reviewed and signed. Yep.
So, okay, so.
So I'll write them down. I'll be one of the people who commits. I would
And if there's
love
a
to get a
problem, I'll
reminder
text you.
electronically. That would be great if that.
Okay,
Yeah.
great, and I'll talk to Lori, and one of us will either do it, or one will be the backup, we'll figure that out.
Yeah.
Lori and Graham. Okay, that sounds good. Thank you very much.
Can I add one other item to our discussion?
Sure.
I defer to the school resource officer, Shadle, but I think he came and attended most if not all of a presentation by Safe and Sound Schools that was at Williston last week. Melissa Gay, I'm just checking online that I've got the right person who spoke. I think that I want to say the right name. Michelle, I apologize. Michelle Gay is the founder, and she was the speaker. She's from Sandy Hook, and her daughter was one of the good souls that we all lost on December 14th, 2012. She did an awesome job helping us, Williston, think about ways that we can be prepared for all kinds of things, but clearly, and I deferred to him, but I would endorse it. If he thought it was a good idea for us to explore having this organization come and speak, I would second that. I thought it was tremendous. Powerful, not something that people should know what the presentation's about before it happens, because it's tough. She goes through step by step her last 24 hours with her daughter and does it in an extraordinary way and is all the more effective for that. But it would be hard for some folks, I think, not unless they knew that that's what the content was. Mm-hmm. But comes out of it, it's empowering about what we as adults who care for and care about children can do, and it really in the end comes down to very basic steps, most of which I think are already in place here. Mm-hmm. And again, I defer to Officer Shadle to corroborate that, but I thought it was terrific.
Thank you very much.
And on that note, I've begun to work with your security person at Williston.
Ann O'Connor.
Yes, Ann O'Connor. We're working right now on relocation sites, at each other's schools, and drawing up a memorandum of agreement. And I think the more we can work together, the stronger both of our programs will be.
Yep.
Nice. Okay, moving on to the superintendent's report.
Okay, so the first item on the agenda for my report is preliminary enrollment figures. And I want to take just a few minutes to talk about this evening. At last year, we've done this every year, and when I became superintendent, this was in place, that the preliminary figures would be discussed at one of our early meetings in September. And last year, one or another, or maybe several school committee members asked to have, more data on the enrollment figures, more of a historical approach on the figures, which is very understandable. However, as I was getting this ready, and I did ask Sue Colby to pull up the past enrollment data, which you have in your packet, as I was getting it ready, what occurred to me, which I've known all along, but just didn't think about in terms of the context of our school committee presentations, is this is exactly what it says, preliminary data.
Right.
So even since this data has come out, we've had students enroll, and probably have had one or two leave our district. So then I began to wonder if a more thorough presentation of enrollment data might not be better to present to you after our October 1st data, which is our when we have to submit it to the state, our final data. We submit to the state twice, in October and in March, so we could actually do two sessions on that. I think that the pieces that you have here in your packet are useful in that they show, particularly at the elementary level, the student-to-teacher ratios at each of our grade levels. And I know that's something that's oftentimes a concern to parents. I think we're happy to see what those ratios are this year. We did some rearranging of classrooms based on the total number of students at a grade level, so that we would have appropriate grade levels. And I did ask for the administrative assistants at the different schools to give me a little more information that actually is probably not included in this preliminary data. So at the high school, I thought you might be interested in this, that we had 20 students transfer out, 15 to Smith Vocational. So that's really just going to a vocational program. 1 student to Hampshire Regional, and 4 students moved out of the district, left East Hampton.
Meaning moved out of the city or choice to another?
No, moved out of the
Right.
city. We had 6 new enrollments, and so we had a gain or loss, I guess, of -10 according to the principal. In grade 10, we had 4 who moved out of the district, and not to choice, but just moved. We had 6 new enrollments. And so that was grade 10. So a gain of 4. In grade 11, we had 4 who moved away from the district, and we had 3 new enrollments, so a loss of 1. In grade 12, we had 2 who moved away,
Bless you.
and 1 new enrollment. So again, a loss of 1. That was the high school, a little data on the high school. At Whitebrook,
Do we know yet, Nancy, had any of those families petitioned? I know that sometimes when there is a move, you have to transfer forward. Sometimes they'll petition to choice back in, or any of that, is any of that reflected there? Or those are ones that have,
when, and I can't tell you specifically, but when it says we have new enrollment, some of those might be
Right,
those people
transfer
coming
back.
back in as choice. So I don't
Yeah.
have all of that data. I can have more specific data for you when we, talk about it in October if you'd like to. At Whitebrook, in grade 5, we lost 3 students. 1 was a choice out student, and 2 went to Hilltown charter. In grade 6, we lost 2 students. 1 went out of district. 1 went to South Hadley, rather, and 1 left the district. Sorry. In grade 7, we had we gained 5 students, and in grade 8 we gained 4 students, and so there was a total gain. That doesn't make sense. But in grade 8 we had 4 students, gained 4 students. That was Whitebrook. At Maple School, we had, in kindergarten, we had 3 pre-K students leave because their families moved away from East Hampton. We had 1 pre-K student who chose school choice to Northampton. We had 1 who chose school choice to Norris, and 1 who went to a private school. Preschool going into kindergarten.
I see.
Going into kindergarten. And of the new students, we had 4 families moved to East Hampton. We had 2 late enrollments, and we had 3 school of choice. So we had, our projection was that we would have 38 students in kindergarten. We now have 41. For grade 1, we projected that we would have 43. We have 43, but 2 families moved in, or moved away from East Hampton, rather, and 2 families moved into East Hampton. So. In grade 2, we projected we'd have 42. We have 40. 3 families moved away, 2 went to private school, and 3 families moved into East Hampton. At grade 3, we had 1 leave for Hilltown Charter, and we also had 5 families who moved into East Hampton. And we had some transfers back and forth too, from Center Pepin to Maple, which made it even out, actually 46. In grade 4, we had 1 family move, 1 student moved to Hilltown Charter, and 2 families moved away, and we had 3 families move into East Hampton. So that was a gain. At Pepin School, we had, let's see, Out of 7 kindergarten enrollments, 3 students moved. There were 7 new kindergarten enrollments, sorry. And I just asked them to tell me where they were from. We had 1 new student move into grade 3 and 2 move into grade 4. We had originally 3 School of Choice students from Holyoke, and they moved out of Holyoke, the city of Holyoke, and to another district. So, not moving away from us, but out of their hometown. And at Center Elementary, we had 6 new enrollments in kindergarten. We had 5 new enrollments in grade 1. 1 came from Maple. We had 2 new enrollments in grade 2, and we had actually no new enrollments in grade 3 or grade 4. We had transfers from one school to the other. So again, this is still preliminary information, but after October 1st, I can give you exact specifics on transfers in, transfers out, and where our students went, or choice students who came to us and where they came from.
It does seem that I think we're recouping a lot now from preschool and into kindergarten. I think we're retaining a lot more there. I think the largest misconception that we have to deal with is entering into 5th grade into Whitebrook. Just the feedback that I hear is there's some, dissatisfaction with the facility, and some people are a little hesitant about 5th grade being not in an elementary building, but in a middle school building. But I think if we were to publicize more about the environment that Meredith fosters there, and the actual programs and curriculum, especially, a lot of the work that they're doing with character building, and I think that, it would go a long way to just kind of clear up what seems to be a misunderstanding.
And I think we continue to try to work on that.
Yeah.
We need to do more, but we've had some nice articles in the newspaper about the Virtues Project and the locker projects this fall.
Right.
And, I've contacted families who sent us positive emails and asked them if they would do a Why Choose East Hampton story for us. We've had some stories posted about some of the good things at Whitebrook, but it's never enough, and I agree with you, Laura.
Yeah, we're
We
thinking
need
in
to-
the PTO of having things starting in late fall about that move from 4th to 5th grade. So having tours, having events at Whitebrook to build up, because choice decisions happen,
In the
beginning
spring.
December, November is the earliest people are starting to
Right.
research that. So,
No, that would be tremendously helpful.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about that too during our school advisory meetings too, the same type of thing.
Yeah, the outreach
From-
advisory.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very, very helpful.
No, I appreciate all the efforts that everyone is making to help our community understand the wonderful schools that we have here, caring faculty, the wonderful programs. Our facilities, at first sight, can be sometimes a bit off-putting, but they are well maintained, and what's inside is what's important. We have just such a caring faculty, caring administrators, and some wonderful programs in our schools. And our parents who are here, I think, are very happy with the programs that we have here in East Hampton. And the good news is that the mayor and I and the director of finance are going to the school building authority again tomorrow for a next step towards a new building project. And so we're moving along as quickly as we can. We're excited about seeing what might be the possibilities for our older elementary schools and for our middle school.
That was one question too, and maybe that's, Karen, you can tell me if that's better for after the meeting, but a lot of parents that were at the initial PTO kickoff had asked if there was still room on the committee, and were asking what the representation was for younger families and parents of younger children.
Sure, that's a really good question, Laura. What happened was there was a deadline to have the committee done, and we advertised it any which way we can, posted it. And anybody that was interested put their name forward, and all the names went forward. But we still will take names at any point in time, because as you know, the commitment to, especially if we're successful and get
Right.
into a building project, the weekly building project meetings is a large commitment. So you always have people that, due to work, family engagements, work engagements, or, just simply their time availables might, need to not remain on forever. So
Should they
we-
contact you? What should, if
They
people
need to
question
send
is-
they need to send a written request, and we keep it as simple as possible. It could be an email to my office.
Okay.
The appointments are made by me.
Okay.
And we have, I believe, correct me Nancy if I'm wrong, either 2 or 3 that have, came in after the date and are interested. And I said, thank you so much. I have a feeling that, we're going to need to replenish names as we go along. But
Are they closed meetings, or could interested parents
They
attend
haven't started
to
yet.
just, I know, but I'm
Yeah.
saying, looking forward, could people just kind of be there to witness?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Public
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
Yep.
yeah.
We'd encourage anybody to come
Yeah.
and participate.
Exactly. We're going to want as much public eye as possible and feedback, and
Great.
because that's what it's all about. It's all about our community. So, right, if anybody's interested, we make it as simple as possible. If it's easier for them, most people, a lot of times it's easier to just send a quick email. Very simple. I would like to be, on the school building committee in the future if something becomes available, and because I think we are going to definitely, need some additional names.
But at the very least, people who can't make that obligation or don't, they could still attend and participate.
Yes.
So we'll let
Absolutely.
people know at the
Yes.
PTO meeting
Absolutely.
tomorrow.
Yes.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that up.
Nancy,
yes.
I apologize. I know that there's some risk in this, but in looking at the numbers and the discussion about this, I'm again just going to say what I know is not popular to point out, but there's a difference when you're a member of the community between what's legally right and what your legal rights are. And I think people can exercise those legal rights, but I think they exercise them in a broader context than just that. And I think it's valuable for people to look at this as a great opportunity in our schools. And I look at the names of these teachers and how many of them, starting in kindergarten with Ms. Pouliot all the way up to grade 8 with Ms. Bust, and there are plenty in between. There have been some who've retired since my children were in elementary and middle schools, but it's such a tremendous faculty and such an extraordinary good thing that's available. It costs the community money when families elect to choice out and to participate in charter schools. And that's just a simple fact. It costs money. Often more money than is created out of the property tax revenue of that family living in the community. And as awkward as it is to point that out, if everybody did it, we wouldn't have money not only to be funding the public school system, but we would be reducing other important services in this community. As a teacher, I often say to my students, there's a simple guideline about your behavior. What if everybody in the room was doing what you were doing? What would be the impact on the community of learners who are here? And generally, that's a pretty good guideline for good behavior. Whatever the rules may be, that guideline is good. And I would just ask families who exercise the decision to choice out or to charter out, to say to themselves, what would happen to East Hampton if everyone made the choice you made? And I'm happy to have the conversation. I appreciate every family has unique circumstances, has to do what's best for their own children. But if you globalize the behavior, the consequences are extraordinary. And, in a way, the only way that some can do it is because so many others make the choice to commit to the East Hampton school system. And because they do, we continue to have a good school system on offer.
And that's very, excuse me.
Oh, go ahead.
That's very true, Peter. I don't think the average resident has any idea the cost effect of choicing out. Technically, you're thinking an average tax rate would be, for us, we have very reasonable taxes, one of the most reasonable in the area. So you figure if your average tax rate is like $3,000, it's a lot more than that for charter and choice. An old estimate was $5,000 and $10,000. So you're already way above it, just with one. And as you know, it's charter is more than choice, and but each child. So, and we've been going over the figures, especially with the enrollment and MSBA, and looking at exactly those things. And I think that, again, back to the perception, one of the things that we would like, if you are going to choice out or charter out, whatever, at least check our schools, at least, come in, visit, and then also what we've been getting at through, the PTO and all the different advisory committees is, why are you leaving? What is the reason? Is it, a reason of more convenience, or, what really is the real reason to choice and charter out?
That gives us
Make
the
it-
opportunity.
Exactly.
That gives
So-
us the opportunity to respond.
Absolutely.
Which is part of the theory of charter and choice, is that we will be able to respond, but we can only respond to known, accurate information. So,
And along those lines, you know, we had talked last year about sending a survey out to all the families who have either chosen choice or charter to leave our district. We're getting that survey ready now, so that will go out in the next week or so. It'll be a paper copy survey with a stamped self-addressed envelope to return the surveys to us, because we do value getting that information and finding out, you know, what are there areas that we can improve that would help us keep all of our community members here in our schools. So, thank you.
Before we leave the topic of the enrollment figures, you mentioned that official numbers come out in October 1, and then you report them again in
March.
So what I was wondering is, maybe we could ask Superintendent Follansbee if she would put together some kind of a report that, instead of listing maybe by teacher, but a summary after the October 1 information is ready,
By grade.
by grade, and then maybe just an average for class size, so that we could look at that data, compare year to year to year, and have one chart.
Class size, and the one other helpful thing would be number of classrooms in the elementary level. Because
Number of
that is the nice to see in the breakdown, because that makes a difference. Sometimes there's those birth years that it's just on the cusp, it's a little bit low, which means if you have only 5 classrooms, the class sizes are high, but if you add the 6th classroom, then they're much lower. So it's interesting to see if we have 5 or 6 in that year.
No, I think the information will be far more pertinent and interesting at
Yeah.
that point in time, and I would enjoy, you know, reporting on it then.
Okay, thank you. I can't let this go, but I just have to say, on the topic of Whitebrook, you could not find a more caring, loving, nurturing environment, in my opinion, than Whitebrook Middle School. I just have to say, my
well, the
personal
letter that came in
experience.
most recently that the superintendent shared with the school committee testified to that, a parent of a child,
Exactly.
and you know, and she didn't even there was no but, it was all
Yeah.
a confirmation of the great things that happen.
Yeah, it's a wonderful environment, and just very, very loving, caring, nurturing, respectful, and they do wonderful things there, and I just had to throw that out.
I appreciate that, as are all of our schools.
True, so true, so true. Okay,
All right, so moving on. So the next item on my agenda is just a little update on opening day. We had the first 3 days of professional development, August 25th, 26th, and 27th. And I think they were great days for all of us. I started the morning with a presentation. Our school committee chair, Deb Luznia, was kind enough to come along and give a statement to the faculty and staff, and that was very well received. I think they always just feel so pleased when school committee members come and share their thoughts with them, and it was a beautiful statement and very much appreciated. I followed that with, each year I try to determine a focus, and this year when I was, oftentimes it comes from the Massachusetts Association of School Superintendents Institute in July that I attend every summer, because we get the latest thoughts from the Commissioner of Education and changes in policies and rules and so forth. They always have very inspiring speakers, and they always choose a topic that is pertinent to us. And this year it was about having healthy schools, and how do we have healthy schools, and talking about the data that we all experience, where we find that we have children who come to us with challenges, mental health challenges and other challenges that impact their learning. And so what can we do to support those children? And I shared some data with everyone about that. And so I said that I thought that this was timely for all of us. And then I said that I wanted to share the SciTech band video with them that morning. And in fact, I said I want to finish this morning with a video, and I told them that some of them may have seen it already, that I have already seen it several times, but every time I see it, I'm equally moved by it. And it makes me remember in a strong and positive way why we are all here today, why we're all here in education, and that's because we want to make a positive difference in the lives of our students. Deb Luznia was there. I think she would concur with the positive response that everybody had to that video, and if you haven't seen it, I highly encourage you to see it. It was an example of an exemplary teacher, but we have teachers exactly like Gary Bernice, this band director at Springfield SciTech. We have teachers exactly like Gary Bernice who are just as committed and do so many wonderful things with our students. But I think it's just an inspiration to us to see the possibilities that are there before us if we're devoting ourselves to the education of our children. So I think it was very well received, and I also just said at the end, and I think, after you see it, what it reminded me about is that every one of us, I believe, can remember a teacher in our past and the difference that they made in our lives in some way, small or large. And clearly this teacher was a shining example of that. So it was really about, making connections with kids and building those relationships and giving every child an equal chance and that positive energy that I think our faculty and staff, all of our staff, are so good at giving our students. So it was a good start, and then we went on from there, and there was professional development in each building, and I wanted to just give you a couple of highlights about that. At the elementary level and 5th and 6th grade, we're doing a new literacy program called Making Meaning. I think you've had a little bit of presentation about that. So there was some really in-depth professional development, getting our teachers ready and our paraprofessionals to participate in this Making Meaning curriculum. At the middle school, in addition to that, they had Adam Goldberg from Eastern Connecticut State University doing professional development on implementing math practices into every curriculum. If you haven't had a chance to look at those, please check out the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education's mathematics standards, Common Core standards, and the math practices that are a part of that. It's really about good teaching and good learning. And then at the high school, they had Andrew Watson, who gave a presentation on the growth mindset. The growth mindset is an idea that came from Carol Dweck. She wrote a book called, I think it was called Mindset, and it's about having a growth mindset and supporting a growth mindset as opposed to a fixed mindset. That it's about how hard we work that will help us be successful, not whether we're good at something or not good at something. Mathematics being an example, so that students are helped to understand that it's the harder you work at mathematics, the more successful you'll be, as opposed to I'm not good at mathematics no matter what I do. I'm not going to be good at mathematics. So I had the ability to attend one of his sessions. He did a session with the Whitebrook staff and the high school staff, and then he did a second session, more in-depth session with the high school, and that also was very inspirational. And then of course we had the freshman barbecue. I think that was Wednesday evening. So it was really a wonderful 3 days. I think it was some wonderful professional development, helped us become that strong community that we are, welcome our new staff. We have some amazing new staff who have joined us this year, and new people in administrative positions, so I think we're off to a great start. And the first day of school, I was out in the buildings, and everything seemed to be going smoothly. Lots of happy faces, students happy to see their teachers again, which also is an indication of the kind of staff we have. That, as I say, I would see our students and their faces just light up when they'd see a teacher that they had in the previous year. So I think we're off to a great start. I'm excited about this year and look forward to many good things. And that is the end of my presentation, unless anybody has any other questions. Or
I can't talk about it.
you what?
I can't talk about it.
All
I've
right.
already cried 3 times today. It's going to be a great year. That's what we'll say.
It will be a great year. So this evening I also have Allison Rebello, our newly appointed principal at Center and Pepin Schools. Allison was our middle school principal for a number of years, needed to step down for health reasons. took a position as an assistant principal at Center and Pepin, and when our principal, Amy Napolitano, resigned to accept a new position, I immediately went to Allison and asked her if she'd be willing to step up as principal, and I was delighted to hear her say that she was. She's here tonight to present the school improvement plans, along with Judy Averill, who's our principal, relatively new principal. This is her first full year at Maple School, and they are doing their plan together because we really want our elementary schools to be as consistent as possible, and this way they're able to work together and their staff are able to work together. So Judy and Allison, I'm going to invite you to the podium to give a presentation.
Can I just say we're just so happy to have you in this role, Ms. Rebello.
Thank you.
So
I'm very
happy.
excited to be back in the role of principal, and Senator Pepin staff has been wonderful with supporting me back in this role, and it's great to be there.
We're very excited.
And I get to work with Ms. Averill, so
Dynamic duo.
Great team.
that, we do make
It's a good team, so we're very
Good
happy.
team.
This is gonna mess up the math rubric, but 1 + 1 sometimes equals more than.
It does.
I would agree.
Oh, thank you.
So I'm gonna, you have in your packets our goals, and as Superintendent Follansby said, Judy and I wanted to work really closely together to really make sure that the elementary experience is a good experience, whether they're at Maple, whether they're at Center, whether they're at Pepin. And so a lot of that goes into our school improvement plan and making sure that students are getting a good experience wherever they go. And
And a big part of our professional development is done together. And so again, our professional development is driven by the data which drove our goals as far as what teachers need and where we need to move forward. So having an aligned goals helps us to have aligned professional development, which has been really positive. And we really did get off to a great start this year with some positive PD that was really instrumental in where we're headed. So it's pretty exciting.
so we thought that what we would do is just briefly go over each of the goals, seeing you have them in front of you. That way we don't have to read them specifically to you, but just give you a brief summary and then see if you had any questions. So our first school improvement goal has to do with developing a classroom model that supports all learners in order to improve our achievement in mathematics. So that's talking about the achievement of our special ed students, to our Title I students, to our regular ed students, and to our top students. So really looking at developing this model that's going to help students with wherever they are, you know, on that achievement growth and helping them. And so one of the things that both Judy and I are going to be doing is really working with the classroom teachers to develop this classroom support for the classrooms and working on this ongoing formative assessment, because we know that the more that students have this ongoing formative assessment, the teachers can use that data to really determine where students are. Because we know that some students may do an excellent job with geometry, but then when they get to some other number work, they may struggle there. And so really looking at, you know, where is each student's strength and weakness, and being able to help them with wherever they're at. Being able to work with the teachers to really help them use the math practices in their instruction. You heard Superintendent Follansby say that the Whitebrook was working on that as part of professional development as well. But they're really good, you know, teaching practices that teachers should be using. And really looking at what district determined measure we can use. So we know that the state and DESE say you need to have these certain things in place, and so we're looking at how can we do something the state is asking us to do, but really have it be worthwhile to what we're doing. We don't want to just do something just because it's a state mandate. So what can we do to really help us look at, you know, what the students are doing and how we can support their learning. Our second goal is around the balanced literacy block with integrating making meaning and being a writer into all grade levels. So we had some teachers who were able to pilot the Making Meaning program last year, and there was such success with it. And the students, anytime that I went into the classroom, and I think Ms. Averill would say the same thing, anytime that we were in the classrooms, we could see the difference in students and how they were participating in the lesson and the enthusiasm, and teachers were reporting back that it was really good. And so we are doing that across all the elementary schools this year, and also implementing being a writer. And so we're working with Kim Gilbert, who's our literacy coordinator, and ensuring that we can do the program with fidelity. We want to make sure that every teacher is doing the same program, and that people aren't choosing bits and pieces of that.
And we're really focusing on kindergarten. Kim is going to be really embedded in our kindergarten classes, and then we'll move her up as we bring this on, so that we're going to really shift grade level by grade level. Well, everyone's going to be doing it, and we'll be supporting all teachers, and Kim will be supporting all teachers, but her primary focus this year is going to be bringing this balanced literacy block into the kindergarten classrooms. So that's very exciting.
Could you just take 1 minute to explain just a little bit about the Making Meaning?
Making Meaning is a
What is that?
component of the balanced literacy block. So we have guided reading, which will continue. We have the writing. We have word work, which is the Fontes and Pinnell word study, and then we have the Making Meaning. And what it is it's a comprehension program, and it's very interactive. So there's a lot of it. It's really what we loved about it was that it really built on what we're learning in RETEL, which is our sheltered English instruction program. So everything that teachers are learning right now it's just really addressed in the Making Meaning program. So
using real literature with students, so looking at, having students read real literature with a teacher and asking questions. And then there's a whole social emotional piece that also goes along with it. So in addition to literacy block and comprehension for students, it's asking them things that they're going to need for the real world about, so how did you help your partner as you were working on this? Or, do you think that you did your very best on this part? How could you contribute more? Questions like that to get them thinking about how they're a part of the classroom community, which hopefully will lead into, the world as their citizen.
And it really helps them be active learners. We want them to be active participants in their learning. It's not a passive sport. They really have to be involved, and they want to be involved. And so that's what Allison's talking about when we've seen such a difference just in those pilot classrooms. The student engagement was incredible. And so this is where we're headed, and it's really
The
exciting.
conversations were really rich. You could walk into a classroom. If you walked into the classroom, they could be talking about something that they may have been studying a year ago, but the conversations were very rich in how their thinking was about the text, and thinking about how it related to them, and thinking about, what was it, in the way that they use the vocabulary. There's an example where there's a kindergarten book that has to do with a bus ride. And so they might have talked about the word swamped or something to that effect. Squished.
That's the word.
And so they talk about, the kindergarten students come up with, well, what exactly does that mean? What does it look like? What would be another word for that? So it's really using the words from the text to help them make these associations.
And this emphasis on vocabulary, one of the things we noticed in our pilot classrooms was that students were really pointing out in other texts when they'd find a vocabulary word and really getting excited about it. So, and it comes back, it circles around. So it really made an impact, and it continues to, so.
And I would love to bring any of the school committee members who'd like to come and visit a classroom and see a Making Meaning lesson.
I'd love it.
It'd be wonderful.
would
We would
really
love to
enjoy
have you.
The impact, so for example, children on the spectrum, like my son, are typically learners that go through rote memorization and parroting. So he can read beautifully, but the context was really lacking. And so after this kind of instruction, what happens is that he starts to understand the feeling and the social emotional connection with that, which then leads them to this summer. He would seek out other kinds of literature, which turned out to be graphic novels. But he was motivated enough to seek that out because he wanted to read. Didn't mean he wanted to read maybe standards, but he was finding some way to find something to make that connection, So it really, it builds on itself.
And one of our primary goals this year is to really make sure that our children with special needs, children who are pulled out for special ed services are not being pulled out during this time because the core instruction is so rich. We don't want any children missing that. So we're re-looking at how we're administering special ed and Title I services to really preserve this. And I think that's going to be, we're going to see an impact because of that. So it's exciting.
Yeah, just email me or call me.
Yeah, you certainly, any of you obviously know that you're welcome in our buildings at any time, and I know that the teachers enjoy seeing you. The mayor was at some of the PD, and I know that that's one of the things that the teachers talk about as well, of seeing you there. They know that you care about what they're doing.
Well, it's very exciting for me.
It's a win-win.
It's great.
Yeah.
And then our third goal is community engagement and communication and engaging families and community. And this is something that's really important to both Allison and to me as we move forward. I think it's something that is just so vital in having a strong school. So we'll continue to use Power School. We've moved on to the email lists instead of the all call. I know the all calls can be really invasive when they come at times. So we're doing more of that non-essential communication through emailing, mass emailings for families, which we're getting very positive responses to. We have the Facebook page now, and that has been really catching on, and I think that both the district Facebook page is gathering viewers on a daily basis, which is wonderful. Our websites we're continuing to update and strengthen, and even to look at new formats for that. I mean, right now we have our current formats, but it's nice that the high school is helping us look for other easier ways of managing our Facebook pages. So that's something that we continue to strive to improve. Just really getting those flyers in the backpacks. Last year I did a survey with parents about how they want information, and the flyer in the backpack does still seem to be a high one. Sometimes it feels like they never really get looked at, but parents do want those. So we're doing multiple means for the same event, but just getting it on the website, getting it out to Facebook, getting the flyer in the backpack, sending out an email, just to really let people know that we want them involved in these activities.
And we know that, some families like email better or Facebook because they're right there with the social media. Other parents are like, I just want to see the note, in the kid's backpack. That's what I want to do. I'm not online at all. And so we're trying to make sure that we can reach everybody with whatever they're comfortable with as well.
And then just really working with the media to make sure that we can publicize what's happening in our schools, because there really is great things happening on a regular basis. Maple's going to be having our science night. It was canceled in June for rain 2 nights in a row, but we're doing it again, and we're going to be publicizing that, and it is open to Maple Center in Pepin, even though it's at Maple. And so these are the things that we want to be having so that children feel a part of our community, and that the school is a place where they come. So, any questions on any of those?
Sounds like great things. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Like we said, come on in anytime you want to.
Do that. Sign us up.
And it's fun to see the gardens when you're over there as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Principal Rebello and
Okay, really finished?
yes, I am.
Moving on to our minutes from our August 11th regular session? Yeah, I guess that's right. No? Yeah, I guess that is right. Okay.
Well, is it in our,
We have it
we go.
electronically, don't we?
I don't have it to sign. Okay, thank you. All right, motion to approve the minutes from the regular school committee meeting on August 11th, 2015.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
And I have to abstain.
Oh, that's right, I do too.
So both
Allison,
Laura
Peter and I are abstentions, we weren't there.
Then we can't vote.
Right,
We'll
so I
have to
think
move
the
this.
vote needs to be postponed.
To move it to the next meeting. We need a quorum for that.
Thank you.
Okay, warrants and payroll.
Sorry, I typically pull this out ahead of time, I was so engrossed in the conversation. All right. Motion to approve the school payroll dated September 3rd, 2015, in the amount of
$288.95.
All those in favor?
Aye. Motion to approve the accounts payable authorization for payment dated September 3rd, 2015, in the amount of $97,618.96.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And should be one more item here. Okay. Motion to approve the school payroll dated August 20th, 2015, in the amount of $297,852.11.
Second.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye. Motion to approve the accounts payable authorization for payment dated August 20th, 2015, in the amount of $61,082.63.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Allison, I can give you a hard copy of that if you didn't get
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm trying to keep
I
up.
love how.
Well, the chair could reread the
It says
number,
her.
but
Oh, okay.
she's dodged that.
I'm
she's
sorry, but
dodged that challenge
I
pretty
have to
successfully.
tell you that I love how our principal's side job is to collect the meetings.
Well,
I think
we-
that's
we-
really about the above and beyond part setting in.
We greatly appreciate it because
So hang in there. We're just
budget
noting
transfer?
that your notes are in, your goals, Nancy, are in our notes for this
Yes,
meeting.
right.
Okay.
Oops.
A motion for a transfer, hang on. Oh, it's on paper. Sorry.
It's right there.
Yep, thank you. Motion for a budget transfer in the amount of $12,000 from the SPED tuition collaboratives to the medical therapeutic at White Brook Middle School, because there's no student at the collaborative presently, and this is to pay a bill for one-to-one nurse for student in an OCD program. So that was a motion.
Second?
Motion. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye. You may want to give her a succinct version of that motion.
Okay, so here you go. Just, again, it's a motion.
actually it's right here. She can copy it from here.
Is that okay? Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay, sorry.
Okay.
This will be even more, I lied about that one being succinct. Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
See, that was easier.
Yep.